you already saw the thumbnail, you can already tell what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be fixing our E46 M3. Now this is a 2004 BMW M3 that we rescued from being a part out car. So when we rescued it, we slapped it together, made sure it was roadworthy, but there's a lot of things that we overlooked. We didn't do the normal maintenance that we're always preaching on this channel, but it has been running. We've been fixing it slowly over the last 2 years. One thing that we haven't fixed though, and it's about time to do it now, is the cooling system itself. So the water pump has play in it. The color of the coolant is the same as the color of the car. Like I said, this car was rescued from a parts car, so we don't have too much attachment to it, as you can tell. And we've been using it more of an experimental car. We're experimenting things on here. So today's main concern is the overheating and the rusty cooling system. So for that, we're gonna be trying out this chemical called Thermocure. I've never used it before. It's not a sponsored video or anything like that. We're just gonna see if it works, and if it makes our lives easier, why not? Usually what you would do is you would just flush out the whole cooling system, just use water, get as much of that rusty coolant out of there as you can. Then you would put that chemical, the Thermocure, in the system along with some more water. And then drive it around, let that chemical do its work. Then you flush everything out again, fill it back up with the proper coolant. Now for us, since that water pump is wiggling around so much, we're gonna actually take the water pump off, flush out the system, put a new water pump in, fill it up with the water and the chemical, drive it around for a few days, and then we'll flush it back out. So let's just get right to it. Ooh. That's nasty. All right, so I got all the stuff cleaned up so the water pump can go back on. Now the O-rings, I went ahead and replaced those. Even the one that's coming from this coolant pipe, we're gonna replace that. But you can see the rust buildup inside of the pipes. If that's in there, like on the pipe coated like that, the radiator's also fully coated in there. So obviously we know that the cooling system is still going to be bad. We gotta get all this stuff flushed out. So this is what we're gonna try out to see if it gets the rest of the rust out of the cooling system. We flushed out everything with just gallons of water. That's pretty much what it looks like, but now it is clean and clear for the most part. Obviously there's gonna be chunks coming out, but what we're gonna do is we're gonna treat it with this. So this is Evaporust Thermocure. It's meant for cooling systems, and one of these treats up to 3-gallon cooling systems. So the E46 M3 is around 2.6, 2.7 gallons total. So we've got the coolant system mostly empty. We're gonna fill it up with this, and we're gonna fill it with some water. We'll throw some coolant in there as well, because it is gonna get below freezing here soon. We're gonna drive it around probably for a couple of days. It says to do about 3 to 4 hours, drive the vehicle, or up to several days for extensive rust. Pretty sure you would call that extensive rust. So we're gonna drive around for a couple of days, then we'll take everything back apart. I actually went in and put the fan shrouds and all of that stuff back on. So let's just put this in there and see what happens. Now here's a quick trick if you're filling any E46 cooling system for that matter. You want to have your bleeder screw all the way off, and then you're going to keep filling the expansion tank until you see water coming out of the top of the bleeder screw. and you want to jack up the front of the vehicle. Ideally, you want this to be the highest point, but on the E46 M3, you've got a tank that goes all the way over here. So it will travel up this hose and it will come out right through the top right here. So it will bleed from there as well. All right, so I'm gonna put some water in it first, then we'll put this. That way when it comes out through here, we're not taking any of this out. Ooh, that kind of looks like what came out of it. So it's been about a week, but we've only driven it about 4 days. So it's got about 130, 140 miles on it. It's circulated through the system, it's got warm. I mean, everything should have been to the standards of that chemical. So what we're gonna do now is we're actually gonna drain it and see exactly what the results are. The way I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna try to drain as much of it out as we can, and then we're gonna just fill it up with distilled water mixed with some coolant. We're gonna have to flush this out a couple of times, I already know that, but our main goal here is just get as much of those rust, that scaly deposit that was all coated on everything, get as much of that stuff out of here. So we're gonna fill it back up with coolant and distilled water. We're still gonna leave the thermostat out of here. So I'm not gonna take all of that stuff off, I'm just gonna take off the lower radiator hose and we'll be able to see if it got that scale off of there. But before that, let's just open up the expansion tank and see what the color of that water and solution looks like. Let's see. Ugh. Oh, it smells so bad. And you know, I can smell. Oh, it smells like sulfur, like rotten eggs. If you could see on the cap itself, so there was rust deposits all over here, but there's no more, this stuff was like caked on there, it wouldn't come off even with the brake cleaner, but it's no longer there. But it does look like black. Oh yeah, look, it's black. You can see all the deposits. So this is the main reason we didn't put the thermostat back in, because it's just gonna ruin the thermostat. Ideally, I would have wanted to run it with the old water pump, but it was just so wobbly, that whole shaft, I didn't want to risk it. That's why we did it this way. All right, let's drain it. And I already emptied the bucket, the white bucket, so we should be able to see what it looks like. Ooh. It's black. So before it was like fully coated brown rusty deposits, there's still some of that in here, like almost where it meets the actual housing itself. But inside the hose, for the most part, it's cleared out. There's still some chunks in there that I could see. There's still definitely a decent amount of chunks in here, which I don't like. You can definitely see a lot of chunks still in there. But it's not rusty anymore. It's like it coated all the rust. Good soup. So it's like a green, black, a lot of chunks in there still. You can see all those chunks. It's all scale, rusty scale. We've got a little bit of coolant in here with distilled water. That's the way it's blue. So I can see when blue fluid starts pouring out. And then we'll put the hoses back on after we get most of this flushed out. Which is not gonna be fully flushed out, but we're gonna do a couple more flushes anyways, so it'll be fine. I just wanna make sure that mostly distilled water and coolant is in here.
It's coming out, it's coming out.
So here's a quick recap. Brought the car in with the rusty cooling system, changed the water pump, flushed out the cooling system with just water, put the new water pump on, did not put a thermostat in, put the Evaporust, this Thermocure in the system, drove it around for about 4 days, and then after that, emptied out the whole system again, and then we filled it back up with distilled water and BMW blue coolant, 50/50. And then we've driven it around for another week or so, and now we're at the point where I'm gonna take everything back off, put the thermostat in this time, and we're just gonna see what the inside of the cooling system looks like. So pretty much we're just doing another flush at this point, and we're gonna put the thermostat in. Hopefully there's no more chunks now. So it looks pretty clean in there. Still got a little bit of dirt. It's not as blue as I would like it to be, but we're gonna find out. We're gonna put that same white container underneath the car once we take off the thermostat housing, and we're gonna be able to see exactly what it looks like in there. You see where all the rust had turned to black. I am honestly surprised with how well the Thermocure worked. I mean, it got rid of almost all of the rust. There's still a few spots, few scales here and there, but for the most part, it has been cleaned up. Oh wow, still super green. So technically, this would be the third flush, and stuff is still coming out. Now, when I'm flushing it, I'm mostly just putting, the last one was just mostly distilled water in the system until it was running clear out of the heater hose. So I'm making sure it's getting out of the heater core and all of that. That chemical is not fully out of the system, but as you can see, I mean, it's still working. Even after, 2 flushes, we still have this chemical converting all of that rust. Now, our system was very, very bad. So there's probably still a lot of this rust inside of the radiator, like just clogging up some of those areas. But with the chemical, since it liquefies it, is letting all that stuff keep coming out. We haven't changed any of the hoses. The radiator is the exact same one. So I still expect to see more of these flakes coming out. Even with our coolant exchanges, I'm gonna keep changing out the coolant. We're gonna probably end up putting a new radiator in here right before the summertime. So we'll have to just touch back and see where we're at that point. But in the meantime, I'm gonna put the thermostat back in, put 50-50 distilled water, coolant, let it ride. Let me see if I can grab one of these flakes. Yep, that's just rust flakes. They break up very easily. We're just gonna have to do some more flushes. Now there's other chemicals that claim to do the same thing. This is the one that we tried out. Obviously it worked. It's only 30 bucks. So one of these bottles treats 3 gallons. So if you have like a truck that has a rusty cooling system, you're gonna need a couple of these. Hopefully we don't have to use another bottle of this in here. I don't think we will. Couple more flushes and we should be back to that BMW blue with no problem. I'm sure you're gonna still be seeing a lot more of this car because every time we drive it, seems like we find something else wrong with it. For example, right now it's making some kind of weird rattle. So that's gonna be on an upcoming video. Feel free to subscribe, like the video, share it with anybody that you think might have a rusty cooling system, or just as a reminder to flush out your cooling system. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.